Here we're going to cover the THERMS Dispatch module, which is a module or feature in THERMS that allows security organizations who receive incoming calls to be logged, assigned, and linked to other system information like locations and reports. So the first thing that we want to go over in Dispatch are dispatch record types. So I'm going to demonstrate this by clicking the New Dispatch button here. And I'm going to see a message, no dispatch types currently enabled. Change allowed dispatch types and settings. So I'll click this link and I'll follow it to the settings page. Another way to get to settings, I'm going to close this window here. I can click the three-dot drop down and I can go to settings this way also. So in the settings page, we see two different allowed dispatch types. Duty status is the first one that we're going to go over. So if I go back to the dispatch after enabling duty status and I click new dispatch, I'm going to see this pop-up window to create a new dispatch record. So duty status is meant for organizations that have their employees or staff call a main office line or the dispatch line to check in or out of staff, check in or out of being on duty or off duty, lunch breaks, or those kind of things. So if there was an officer calling in for Ashton Apartments, I would find his name in the list here and I would say he's checking in. Checked in, all clear. I can save that check-in status. And that's it. So if that officer calls back at the end of his shift, I would also want to log checkout. Or if he was on a different status, it could be, say, lunch break, leaving. And all this does is creates a log for your dispatchers or whoever is manning the phone calls in your system or your office, your company, to put them in the THERMS system, so that way there's a record of the person calling in and the time that they called in. So we'll cover the next dispatch record type, which is a little bit more common and useful. That's a service call. So a service call is, let's say you have an apartment complex as a customer and a residents call in to your security company if you have a dispatch line, and they report things like noise or after hours complaints or disturbances, parking, that kind of thing. That's where the service call dispatch type comes in. So if I go back, now that I have both of the dispatch types assigned, I actually see there's a pending one here. This is in my demo account that I was creating dispatch record types before I started this recording. I'll click on the new dispatch button. Now I have two options. Duty status is the one that we just demonstrated, where users or employees call in to check in or out of shift status and that kind of thing. I'll click on this service call option. So let's pretend a resident has called in from Cooper George Apartments. I can enter their phone number here and I can have the caller's name and the reason that the person's calling. Activity types are really important to tag as many dispatcher reports with specifics as you can. So there's more details on activity types in other tutorials and reviews of the THERMS system. So for this one, we're going to pretend that this person's calling about noise. So we're going to tag this with a noise disturbance tag and possibly residential disturbance. Now, if your company chooses to, depending on, everybody has different operations, but if you want to assign a dispatch service call to somebody, let's say that there's actually a security officer on site at Cooper George Apartments and we want him to investigate this noise complaint that came in from a caller, we can check the action needed box here. That'll give us some more options. From here, we can select a priority. A noise complaint is probably going to be a low priority. We can add some action notes. Let's say contact resident in unit 312 after noise investigated. Now I can optionally assign this to a specific user here, or I can leave it unassigned. I can also attach things like maybe a call recording or images or any files that are related to the dispatch call. So I'm not going to assign this right now, but I'm going to save this dispatch record. Now we see in our pending list here, we have two unassigned assignment needed dispatch records. These are service calls. So if I click on the top one here, I have some options. The first one is clear call. We'll get into that later. What we want to look at is assigning or claiming this call. So I can assign this to another user in the system, or I can claim it myself. if I just leave the selection to my name here and I save assignment, I'm actually going to claim it. But if I go in here and I assign it to Smith Doe and I save assignment, it's now going to get moved down to the assigned list. And if I click on it again, it's going to have a button here for acknowledge assignment for this user. That means that user hasn't actually acknowledged it yet. And this is a feature of the dispatch service call assignments. So that way, if a dispatcher wants to check to see if a security officer actually has acknowledged the service call, they can do that. Or in some situations, maybe a dispatch company or security operations the dispatch has walkie-talkie service, say like Zello push-to-talk, and they're communicating with the field staff, and they let him know that he has a pending service call. So the dispatcher can actually click the acknowledge assignment for that user here, and then they can say acknowledge at 1602. Maybe he wasn't able to get to the THERMS dashboard in time and acknowledge it, and the dispatcher just acknowledged it for him. So I can reassign the call if I needed to, or I can leave it as is. So I go back to this list, and let's say that I am actually the security officer here, Smith John Doe. Now I need to clear a call. So this call came in, and it was for a noise complaint. The caller complained about some noise. And then I've got some action notes here, contact resident in 312 after noise investigated. So if I'm the security officer on the property, I may go look into this noise and see if maybe it's a party or there's some kids or people that aren't residents on the property that are causing a disturbance. And after I resolve this, I'm going to click clear call. So I'm presented with some options here. Select report to attach service call. Oh, this is interesting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually close this service call out, and I'm going to go back to one of the settings that we briefly skimmed over here. Underneath service call, there's a checkbox, require service calls to be cleared with a report entry. So I can uncheck this. I'll go back to this dispatch call, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click the call. I'm going to go back to it and click clear call again, as if I'm clearing it. Now I'm given a different option here. Clear and add this dispatch service call to a report via a report entry, and I can click the report entry option, or I can hit skip and clear. So if I hit skip and clear, I'm presented with a new form here, and what I'm doing is clearing the service call, meaning I went and investigated the noise complaint. So I can say request was resolved, or I can say it was unresolved, and I can say no noise found, and I can save it, and that's it. I just cleared that dispatch service call. So if I go over here to the log, I can see this here. It's going to give me a summary of what time the call came in, what time it was assigned, and what time it was acknowledged. And then it'll give me a total time for the dispatch from incoming to resolution of it. So let's go back to this setting over here for clearing a dispatch with a report entry. So I'm going to turn this on, require a service call to be cleared with report entry. So if you are not familiar yet, THERMS has an option for reports to be emailed automatically to customers or location subscribers. So if I only want my security officers to be able to clear a service call by attaching a dispatch record to a report, because I want that report and record of the service call coming in to reach my customers or clients in email, then I'll turn this setting on here. Require the service call to be cleared with a report entry, meaning now I won't have the option. So if I go back to this one and I hit clear call, now I don't have the option to hit skip and clear. So I only am left with the option to pick a report or create a new report. So I can see my reports here. I can click all, and I can see any reports that are in progress by other users. So let's say Ashton Apartments. This is the same location for this service call. I'm actually going to create a new report just for demonstration purposes. And then I walk through the process. I create the report. It takes me to the actual report, and then it gives me the option to clear this call. The same form here that we saw before when we cleared it on the dispatch page. So nothing found. I'm just going to clear it and save it. So I created a new report here, and it actually added this dispatch report entry, and it cleared it at the same time. So this is really handy. I'll go back to the dispatch module here, and I will go to log. We no longer have any pending service calls. I'll go back to log, and I'll go to that top one here, Ashton Apartments. If I click on it, I can see that it was cleared. And that's it. So the dispatch module is pretty straightforward, and there's a couple options depending on how your security operations work. Let me cover one more thing here. So clear pending calls automatically. If a call is pending for more than 6 hours, you can have the option to automatically clear it. If you want to move that down to a little bit shorter time frame, 3 hours, or if you wanted 24 hours. Every operations has a different threshold for how fast they can respond to service calls. Some are more important than others. And if you're just a security company and you're not a law enforcement department, meaning you're not dropping what you're doing to go and respond to a noise complaint in an apartment complex, then maybe you have a higher threshold. Typically 6 hours of a pending call is pretty common. So yeah, that's it for the dispatch module. If you have any questions or you're looking for more help, check out the support docs on the website. Thanks.